Hello everybody, and welcome to part 2 of my autumn mansion build. In this video, I'll be decorating the interior of this mansion. If you'd like to see me build the exterior and the garden area, I'll have a link to part 1 in the description of this video, as well as links to all the mods and shaders I use. Alright, let's get started! Since we're starting with just an empty husk of a house, I started off by laying out the floor plan. I chose this fancy herringbone flooring for the main hallway and study, and I decided to line the walls with a dark wood wainscoting, as it was very common in older houses like this. When building the back wall on the exterior, I chose not to use windows on the ground level to make space for a big staircase on the interior. I used the same dark oak wood as the paneling, and it has this super cute carved detailing that reminded me of the super detailed and beautiful grand staircases in old mansions. I also added a lot of the same wood decorations I used in the entryway area. After looking through all my wallpaper options, I decided on using this green diamond patterned one. I wanted most of the interior rooms to have green accents, so this worked perfect with the vibes. Also, this block can be used with the Chisel and Bits mod, making it super easy to edit the blocks in case I want to do one wall with double sides, which you'll see me do with the kitchen. I added the second level's flooring and made a lookout over the hallway to give the layout a more open feel. I also filled in the roof level so I can have just a flat ceiling. I never know what to do with the attic area. They're like the most awkward parts in any build, and I tend to put them off until the last minute. Unfortunately, I don't do anything with this floor in the end because I was really getting close to my deadline by the time I was doing the interior of this project. Here's a great example of me using the Chisel and Bits mod. I wanted this room to have the same wood paneling I used downstairs, but if I just used the block normally, obviously it would just show through. So using Chisel and Bits, I halved the block and put the wallpaper on the other side. Now I was able to have the best of both worlds. I originally wanted to use this trick on the whole inside of my build, including the exterior blocks I've already built, but because I'm using this mod on top of Cocricot and Miniaturia, I wasn't sure they would work together, and unfortunately, my theory was correct. Some, not all blocks, just straight up don't work with Chisel and Bits. So while I was planning this build, I made sure I was using a compatible Tudor block so I could do this wallpaper hack. But after building the entire exterior, I went to edit the block and it didn't work. Turns out there was a different Tudor block from the same set of blocks that apparently was the only compatible one. I used the wrong block and I built the entire exterior with it, so I just left it as is and moved on. I used a concrete exposed brick looking block, but honestly that doesn't matter because I change it later. But I did use the half block hack I kept bringing up. I wish this was possible in vanilla Minecraft. I honestly can't believe they still haven't added half blocks to the game yet, and it's kind of driving me crazy. I really wanted to make this green tile work because it's one of my favorite tile blocks in all of these mods, but it's just too busy for such a large room, so you'll see me change that later as well. As you can already tell, I'm very indecisive when it comes to building. I tend to be kind of a perfectionist with these kinds of things, and it especially shows when in the back of my mind I know people are going to see this build in a video like this. When I was in the early process of planning this build, I knew I was going to have an area for a cauldron. If you haven't watched part 1 of this build, the mansion belongs to a young witch who specializes in potion making, so it only makes sense that she has a cauldron to brew them. I put it under the stone fireplace and added these shelves to either side of it. She's going to need plenty of space to put her potions and such. Oh, I should also mention, I got a comment on part 1 of this build suggesting to name the witch Hazel, and I love the name Hazel. So that's officially the name of our little witch, and I'll be calling her that for the rest of this video. Here's where I replaced the walls. To blend in the exterior blocks, I used the original compatible Tudor block instead of the exposed brick, as I wanted to make the space warmer and more inviting, which involves redoing the shelves. This was kind of a struggle, and I'm sure there's an easier way to have approached this, but I'm very happy with the end results, and I like how the dark wood outlines the shelves. After that, I built the sink area with shelving and added a massive table for Hazel to do all her projects. I added a cauldron to the fireplace and put a rope above it to give the illusion that it's hanging above the fire. I also put some spoons and spatulas for her to mix her potions. Heading back to the sink area, I decided to put cabinets above and around the counter. As I was looking through all the color options, I saw the dark green cabinets in the Cocricot mod and wanted to use that instead of the brown wood. My only issue with them was the countertops looked too modern for the build, and I wonder what I could do to fix that. I used the tile countertop on the original cabinets and put them on the green ones with the Chisel and Bits mod. This made them fit into the environment much better, and now I can have the best of both worlds again. After that, I added as much clutter as possible. When I think of a witchy space, I imagine spaces like Howl's Moving Castle. It's super messy, but it's also filled with lots of magical items. So to get that vibe, I used many bottles, books, jars, and plants to get the message that this place isn't just any ordinary mansion in the woods. But of course, at the end of the day, a witch has got to eat. So I still added a few hints that this place is still used as a kitchen. And you might be saying, Violet, if Hazel still uses this space as a kitchen, then why isn't there a stove or a fridge? And to that I say, because I said so. Hazel here has plenty of freshly grown plants to eat, and she can use her fireplace as an oven. Now I get to address the garden exit / sunroom. I had mentioned in part 1 that this room was inspired by a real life mansion I toured, and that same space had a sunroom exactly like this. So channeling that memory, I turned this sunroom into a nice afternoon tea area, a place for Hazel to sit and take a break after working on her craft all day. And personally, I'd do exactly the same if I had a space like this. And since it doubles as an exit to the garden, it has a lovely view. But at last, I had to address the thing I was dreading most: the clutter on my handmade shelves. Since the shelves themselves count as a block, no matter how empty the space is, I can't place any other blocks inside of that area. So you know what that means. I had to hand make the clutter all by myself. I made a few containers as well as bottles for various things, and I made a few books to stack here and there. It's not much, but I finally feel like I'm starting to get the hang of this mod. After that was done, I got to work on my favorite spot in the whole mansion. This greenhouse will hold plants that I wasn't able to include in the outdoor area, as well as some tools and a sink. I absolutely love this rusty sink. Any rust, worn, or mossy / overgrown block will be my favorite, honestly. I also smothered this greenhouse in vines. I love any chance where I can go nuts with the vine and ivy. Next, let's do a little detour to the shed behind the house. I didn't go too crazy with this, and it's not too important. I'm pretty upset I couldn't add a wall to the back like I wanted, but let's just pretend I did. I filled it with what you'd expect to see in a shed. Really nothing super fun. I do like the hanging tools. I think that's a pretty nice touch. And for the final touches to this area, I added a bunch of rugs to lean into that messy, eclectic vibe even more. And we're done. This was such a fun spin on a kitchen, and I always find myself enjoying decorating the kitchens the most in my builds, and I honestly don't really know why. My favorite part is definitely the greenhouse and the cauldron fireplace with the shelves, of course. Alrighty then, let's head into the hallway. But first, I wanted to add a hanging light over the opening near the staircase because I want to establish what empty space I'll need to fill in around the light fixtures. I used my personal favorite lights in Cocricot, the star-shaped ones, and it's perfect for the witchy vibes, and I think they look super magical. All right, now we can head on to the hallway. My goal is to fill this area with as much clutter as possible, which I know is kind of my whole goal with every room, but this is the very first room you'll see, so I need to capture the overall aesthetic so the visitors can get a vibe for what's in store. Hallways are always the hard parts to decorate. They are kind of where all the leftover furniture and items go, so I put plenty of dressers and suitcases to capture that. I really appreciate Cocricot having a half slab bookcase. It takes up the perfect amount of space without feeling too bulky, and I even added a few books scattered around it. I made sure to fill in any empty space with plants, as I'm sure this witch loves nature. My favorite detail in this area is definitely the bike. I'd like to think that it's Hazel's preferred transportation, or would it be a broom? Anyways, what better storage than the hallway, am I right? I hung a bunch of paintings and shelves to fill in this big span of wall. The whole time I was decorating this area, I was trying to think of what to do with the stairs since it's kind of an awkward space. I ended up with these cabinets that I filled with books. A lot of old buildings like these have lots of built-in storage spaces, so I used that to my advantage and filled all the weird nooks and crannies with storage and plants. I absolutely hated the look of this big wall here. The Tudor details made it look really complicated when it didn't need to be, so I covered it with another bookshelf. I also added more cabinets at the bottom to make it look more like an antique display bookcase thing. Sure, that's what it's called. And boom, we're done. Like I said, I love the bike, but I also like having the carpet runner. It's such a detailed rug and I love the tassels around it. On to the entrance. This one will be pretty quick and simple since it's pretty small. Starting with the pumpkin, which of course I had to put a pumpkin out front. And I also added these cute plants with just some red leaves for a pop of color and these green benches. Also, I love the little green hanging mailbox. It's so cute. I put a mat in front of the door to wipe your muddy boots, as well as some boots to look like someone's home. Also, as I was looking for more pumpkin items, I saw this wearable one from Miniaturia, and it's so cute. Oh my god. My eyes look right out the mouth and it's so silly. Anyways, I finished the entrance with some leaves and we're done. Next room we have is the study. This is the room branching off of the hallway, and I didn't want to do a modern living room space since we're going for an antique vibe here, obviously. So no TVs or anything like that, which was a fun change for me. Hazel prefers to be alone most of the time, which means she probably doesn't have guests over much. So my idea was to fill this whole room with bookshelves and a few different sitting areas. She spends most of her free time reading, whether it be about potions and spells or just fun fiction works. She has a nice fireplace to sit by and relax. Her cat also likes to sleep by the fireplace, so I gave her a little spot here. This room has a red theme, as you can see, with the curtains on the rugs. I wanted a more warm, cozy feeling, and normally I'm not a fan of the color red, not a favorite of mine. But this room really needed that change, and in this context, I quite like it. This room is comprised of a lot of nooks. I put a desk behind the sofa, there's a nook for a piano, and a little sitting area by the entrance. I like the options of different spots to sit and read. Do you guys read, by the way? I haven't read a book in a while, but I don't really have much time for that, unfortunately. When I do though, I always love it. Last book I read was actually Howl's Moving Castle, which is funny considering I use that for inspiration in this build. Sometimes I have this issue in larger spaces where I decorate around the edges of the room, which just leaves a huge blank spot in the center. That is exactly what happened here. I had no clue what to do because I already added so many seating options, and then I thought, if she is studying in this room, maybe she'd need a table for all the books she's reading. Does that make sense? Anyways, I did it. I put this big table in the center, kind of like in the kitchen, and scattered a bunch of books. That filled the space nicely, and bonus points for extra clutter. Here it is! I'm a fan of this cozy space, honestly. My favorite spot is the piano area. I love how the light filters through the window here and casts over the dresser. It is just so pretty. We have officially finished the first level, guys. Now, heading upstairs, I felt like this space was almost too open for an old house like this. I'm used to them always having a bunch of like little tiny rooms connected to each other, so I put up these pillars to separate the two levels and add a bit more detail. I also used even more of this decorative wood urn, that's what it's called by the way, and I lined the ceiling with the banister I've been using for the stairs, and that really helped with this area. Heading onto this spot, I knew there was a study and a kitchen, but what else does this witch need? I decided to make this area a designated workspace. This is where Hazel does all of her work and experiments. The kitchen is used to make her potions, the study is for relaxing, and here is where the real witchy business happens. I lined the wall with a desk and put shelves all around it. The shelves, of course, are to hold all her specimens and such. I just had found out too that the music discs look like pinned butterflies with the Cocricot resource pack, which is just perfect for this build. So I put those on either side of the workspace and added, guess what? Even more bookshelves. That's right. She needs all the storage she can get. She's got a whole library here. Also, I hung a bunch of dried herbs like I did in the kitchen, and I gave her a typewriter to use instead of a laptop because this girly is old-fashioned. Or maybe this build takes place in a different time period. That actually would make more sense. I can't believe I didn't think of that sooner. Oh my god. I gave the rest of the room a look over and I saw these blank spaces above the stairway, and that is absolutely unacceptable here. So I filled it with more plants and bookcases because they are the answer to everything. Another thing I added last second here is these windows above the doorways, which, fun fact, are called transom windows. Going back to the office, I put a chandelier above, and this is where I found more starlights under the holiday stuff. I added them into the overlook lighting and they blend in pretty well and also add some nice variety. I'm definitely going to keep this in mind for future builds. Finally, I put up some more shelving and threw some clutter up there, and that's it for this area. My favorite spot has got to be the cozy chair over here. I also love all the notes and things on the walls. It looks like anytime she writes an important thing, she just slaps it on the wall. Now, let's do the smallest room. The bathroom. This might just be the first time you guys see me do a bathroom. Here comes the green tile, yay! Since I didn't use this in the kitchen, I knew I had to use this in the bathroom. I would have been so sad if I didn't use this tile, man. My dream bathroom would definitely have some colored tile like this. Not green though, probably like a blue, but who's surprised about that? In this room, I went full green and I absolutely filled it with plants. The layout was pretty straightforward. I knew I wanted the tub in front of the window, and fortunately this miniaturia tub is exactly the same width. I put some potions in front of the tub. Again, Howl's Moving Castle was a huge inspiration to this build. There's a scene, I'm sure anyone who has seen the movie will know what I'm talking about, where Sophie has to clean Howl's bathroom, and it is obvious he makes potions in his bathtub. So take these bottles as a very subtle reference to that. But there we go. Bathroom done. I am so happy about the green tile, and I'm glad that that worked out. Here's another quick area. The tiny balcony is just a place to sit, so I put a chair and a table with some tea to sip and look at the flipping beautiful view of the red forest. I also added a bench. Starting with our final room, oh my god, we have the bedroom. And we're starting with the most detailed item in this whole house. This is the very first piece of custom furniture I have built with this mod, so please be nice about it. I wanted to make a custom bed frame, and I used the miniaturia bed as a base and built around it. So I built everything but the sheets. In miniaturia, the bed frame and mattress are together as one block, but the blanket is separate, so you can really customize it. I made my chisel and bits bed so that it's compatible with the blanket blocks, and that's super helpful because I really liked the pattern on them, and if I wanted to have built a patterned blanket, it would have been an absolute nightmare for a beginner like me. So this really saved me time. I gave it a canopy bed vibe, but instead of a canopy hanging from it, I did vine because our witch is a nature girly. I used the wood I've been using as the wainscoting and started with just very simple shapes to map out the height and width I wanted. Looking at my references, a lot of these beds had pretty large headboards, so I did one as well. After that, I started carefully adding details. It can get a bit difficult working so small. It definitely would have been easier with a better lighting situation, so I'll keep that in mind for my next project. I do feel like I've improved after this build, and now I'm like really excited to make more custom furniture. It will definitely be a while before, but I'd really like to someday make an entire build with just little blocks. Also, we'll probably need a better computer for that. I have no clue what that would do to my computer, but I absolutely need more practice as well before getting to that point. I had to put a lot of effort into the detail on the bed frame, but honestly, I don't think you can see it very much since the block has a lot of texture already, but I'm still glad I experimented with it. For the vine, I used a green and lime wool and just wrapped it around the frame. This part was the easiest, so it felt like a reward after building the bed frame. I didn't want to go overboard with the vine because I didn't want my hard work to be covered up, so it's a lot more subtle. Adding the leaves was quick and painless, and I made them darker than the vine, but I kind of wish it was the other way around, but oh well. I am not going back and redoing it. And that's the bed. I'm pretty happy with my first custom furniture. Honestly, I think it looks pretty good. Now we get to decorate, I think, the biggest space in the house. I'm keeping with the green theme, and I really want this room to be the coziest. I find that smaller spaces are easier to make cozy, but my trick to this room is to break it into smaller sections and designate little fun areas to each of them. First spot is yet another reading area. Listen, Hazel's got options, but she could also use this as a sitting area in general to relax, but whatever, it's up to her. Next is my favorite spot in this room. I used the partitions in Cocricot, I believe, to make a changing room / closet area where I put these clothing racks that actually have clothes that you can hang on them, which, oh my god, that is just, it's amazing. I put plenty of storage in this area, like a dresser and a shelf with boxes, all that. We've established that she's not very neat, so I'm trying to add plenty of extra little knickknacks strewn about. I gave her a vanity to do her hair and makeup. I put a little basket of yarn by the sofa so she can knit sweaters. Isn't that cute? It's so cute. I love adding little things like this because it kind of gives the person who lives here more character. I should do more builds where we have like an established character. I love having a little story with my builds. It's really fun to talk about. Next, I felt like this bed needed a rug under it. So I made half rug, half wood block so nothing shows downstairs, and I chose a nice purple to switch things up a bit. After that, I added a few details here and there, like another cabinet of books and more suitcases. And now we move on to the exciting area, the sunroom. This room is right over the kitchen sunroom, so it has the same view of the garden, and I thought this would be the perfect spot for Hazel to paint. She's kind of a jack of all trades. Since she stays home a lot, I think she accumulates a lot of different hobbies. So, you know, like knitting, painting, potion making, magic in general, that stuff, just girly things. I had to use the hammer and undo all the weird wood bits on the inside of the roof. They don't make the plain block an option in the creative inventory, so I might have just used that block on the whole house. Let's stop talking about this. Taking a break from the sunroom, I came back and refined everything. I added a rug to the vanity area, as well as more of these star lights that I love so much. And here is where I found out you could sit on the blanket blocks. Isn't that cute? I'm so glad it works with the bed I made. Of course, I had to add some stuffed animals around her room. I also hung some paintings to fill in the empty wall space. I did the same with the hanging plants. Made this space next to the closet a cozy spot where you can sit on the floor. I put a ton of cushions and stuffed animals to make it a bit more comfortable. Sometimes you just want to sit on the floor, you know? And now we have the same problem we had in the study. What do I put in the middle of the room? I decided on a sitting area with leather sofas and a coffee table. I mean, at least it's not another big table, right? But really, I actually do like this decision. I love having a hangout area when Hazel does have people over. They have plenty of places to hang out, that's for sure. Maybe since she reads so much, she's in like a witchy book club, and they all meet up at each other's houses and talk about the spell books that they read or show off the magic they learned. That would be really cute. I filled in even more empty space and added even more books and got to work on our final area. I wanted to hang lights in the sunroom, but it'd be awkward having them hang from the peak of the roof since it's so tall. So I added a support beam. I put a bunch of plants since a sunroom is the perfect place for them, and used this beautiful wicker dresser to house even more plants. And I gave the room a rug, and that's it. This build was such a massive project, and like I mentioned, I could have fit another floor in the attic, but at this point I was on a time crunch, like I said, and as of late my life has really gotten into the way of my hobbies, like making videos for you guys, as you all can probably tell by my inconsistent posting. I had some things happen in the past 2 years that made life pretty difficult, and I just want to say that when I do have the time to do videos like this, I find so much joy in being creative and getting to share that with you all. So thank you so much for giving me a space where I can share my creations, and thank you all for watching and supporting that. It really means the world to me, truly. I really hope you guys enjoyed part 2 of this build. I'm super happy with how this turned out. I think I put a lot of hard work into this and it really paid off. Tell me which room is your favorite in the comments, and I hope you all have a lovely autumn, and I will see you in the next video.